station in California. And I was doing some work in the television, the local television, and was asked, to help manage the station. So I ended up, there was some legislation passing through, and I knew that if this legislation passed through, there was a potential that we would lose our local public television channel, where that's the only place you can see your city council or your school board or your library district. But if we convert it to the digital channel, it would belong with that city forever. So, in some kind of circuitous way, I ended up with some IT wonks from Princeton University, and they designed the system for us. So, got a lot of television experience, and I was managing that, and I would only do it because I wanted students to help out with that project. So in order for me to oversee the students for the Regional Occupational Center, they said, well, you really need a teaching credential. I said, okay, how do I do that? And they said, well, you've done this for a period of years. They'll give you a credential, a career technical credential in arts, media, and entertainment because you've been doing it all this time. So I said, okay, so I got my teaching credential. That's how I ended up with all this stuff.
You're qualified.
I'm qualified, yes. So after I got off the Board of Education, I was working on this television thing, and then I was recruited to run for state assembly. And I was the Republican nominee. I won the primary. I was a very moderate candidate, so that was quite exciting with my party because I would not toe the party line. I was who I am, and that's how it is. And unfortunately lost the general. So two of my girls are living in D.C., so I fly back there, and I'm licking my wounds. I lost, now what? And I was getting ready to come home, and I looked at my son-in-law, and I said, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? And he said, when you fix the state.
Get with it, Grandma.
Seriously, I said, okay, I'll see what I can do about that. And we had already, in the process, I'd made a lot of connections up in Sacramento, and we set up this public advocacy so when I got back, we would start looking at things that we wanted to really get involved with on a statewide level. And so I called them up and I said, hey, out of all these reforms out there, what do you think we really can do? I don't want to talk about it. I'd like to research it, but get involved with something that we really can do. So when I was running for the state assembly and I got the primary nomination, flew up to Sacramento, and the party gives you an orientation. And so they said, well, when you fly up Sunday night and go home on Thursday, 12 months a year. And I said, what? And they said, well, it's a full-time. I had no idea it was a full-time job. I thought it was like the school board. I also sit on the LA County Probation Commission. What are they doing there full-time? And then you could see where the games are. The leadership says you have to do exactly as they say. You have to vote the way they are. You never vote for new taxes. And if you do, you're going to be in the doghouse. I'm like, oh, my God. Are you kidding me? So when I called up these politicos that are helping, they said, well, you know how you were really miffed about the legislature being full-time? I said, yes. They said, what about a part-time legislature? I said, what about it? That's what it was in the first place. And they said, California used to have a part-time legislature. Why don't you go research this topic and think, tell us what you think about it. So I did. And I couldn't believe what I found out. That California actually had a part-time legislature prior to 1966. That we are the exception rather than the rule. There are only 7 states in the nation that have what we call an unlimited full-time legislature. And we're keeping company with New York, Michigan, Pennsylvania. I mean, you just go down to the most plagued states. It was really very interesting seeing this. The rest of the states have some kind of part-time legislature. So I said, okay, I'm going to see which of these states have like the most part-time legislature. Turns out to be Texas, which is the second most populous state in the nation. Very similar in demographics to California, geographically very similar. Why do they have a part-time legislature? They get like a stipend of $7,000 a year. They meet every 2 years for 140 days. And they're called citizen legislators, which means anybody who wants to run, who can either get the leave, the corporations there give them time off. Raytheon Corporation, you're an executive there, if you're an employee there, you want to run for the Texas legislature, they give you the time off. Like if you're in the National Guard or Reserve Fire Department for the training. And I said, how can that be? So I started looking even farther into Texas. And The Economist actually, after I read all this, The Economist had a paper out in the midsummer that really outlines a lot of this stuff. But Texas is not having the economic problems we are. Their budget's closed with surpluses. Their unemployment is the lowest in the nation. What's going on here? Like part-time legislature and business-friendly small government interference. Really, when you boil that down. So I called up the politicos and I said, I think I want to start deconstructing this mess at the state. And I think we really need to return to a part-time legislature. I really do, because what they're doing is they're really wreaking havoc because they're there full-time unlimited. They get $115,000 a year, $173 a day. They have people on Friday, they'll have like one legislator go in and sign in for everybody. They get paid. They fly home, they get paid Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're not even there. They get full car. Oh, we tracked them. We released it to the press. We tracked them. We took pictures. So I said, well, okay, what do we have to do? And they said, well, it's a constitutional amendment that you would have to introduce to return it back to a part-time legislature. And I said, okay, how do you do that? And they said $200, some language, and there's like law firms and PR firms and consultants that are all doing this pro bono. They're doing this all pro bono. They cannot believe I'm going to take off with this thing. He probably said, it's a good thing she's naive. But she can do it because she's not tied to anybody. And they knew my political record, my contributions, everything. Squeaky clean. And when I ran for office, I did opposition research on myself. They found nothing. There's nothing there.
No dirt on you.
And I know it. And I know it because I went hard after myself. So I said, you know what is really interesting? Because we think everybody's really angry, right? The Tea Parties are starting to come around, and, Obama, people are starting, the whole mood is really starting to change from what it had been in November. So I said, why don't we, before we pursue filing for the part-time legislature, why don't we wait and see what happens May 19th? That's really going to tell us how people feel. Because if the electorate overwhelmingly, and I'm thinking 55% is overwhelmingly, sends all the package back and then slams them on the Prop 1F that was punishing the legislature, I said that's the timing. The timing is there because in order for us to move this, we not only have a good idea, but you have to have an electorate that's engaged and willing to get the message. Because if they're not going to listen, it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm thinking we're going back and forth, sort of. Here are your projections. Here are my projections. I was like in the high 50s and like 60% for Prop 1F, 78%. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the result. I said, I'm coming up tomorrow. I got my ticket, grabbed my stuff, flew up there. The law firm, looked at the language we wanted in there. They wrote it up. And walked into the AG's office at about 3 o'clock, the Attorney General, $200, and filed for the petition. You write a letter? That's direct democracy. That's what they want to take away from us. They want to take away the initiative process? Are you kidding me? We can manage this better than anybody else. Another interesting piece of information, the initiative process has been around since 1900. It was dormant. It was dormant until 78, when the first big initiative came through, Prop 13. Now they're blaming everything on Prop 13. I don't think so. It's not Prop 13. You can't manage that. You can't manage our money.